The wholesome one just said it. We got one thing to talk about. Let's talk about it here for the next 60 with the wholesome one right here. Hurricanes Live on the Voice of College Football. Welcome in, everyone. Leave those comments and questions there in the live chat. We're going to do it up with the wholesome one here. Hey, man, how's it going?
Taking it one day at a time, Mark. Unfortunately, Miami had their first loss this past previous week, but we're already on to Middle Tennessee State, and of course, we're going to talk about the good and bad of last week's game, and we'll talk about what to look forward to for the Middle Tennessee State. What's the Blue Bombers? I think is their name. What's
I
their
think
name?
they're the Blue Raiders.
Blue Raiders. There we go.
They're the Blue Raiders. I don't know what that means exactly. I know what a raider is, but they're usually, black. Evil, but blue, that's fine if they want to go with blue. What I'm noticing? I'm noticing you've got a jacket on. I'm noticing I've got a jacket on. If it's anything there like it is here, which usually is more like 20 or 20 some degrees colder, it started to be fall today.
Oh yeah,
here
it's starting to drift. It's starting to drift, and it doesn't feel good. I mean, it's funny to watch teams. I watch my teams, the Miami Hurricanes, and look at that beautiful 92 degrees, and I'm like, 18 years of it, and I took it for granted. I took it for granted. Oh man.
Yeah,
we live and we learn. Huh?
It didn't slide here. It plummeted today. It was 89 yesterday, and today it's like in the low 60s and just cold and rainy.
Yeah, too bad to be down there.
Well, all anybody has to do is look at the final score, and they're going to point at the offense as being the problem.
Absolutely.
Miami. Now, this is a credit to the offense and the defense, but mostly the defense outgained Texas A&M by something like 80 yards, 90 yards, something in that range. I'll have to look at it up again, but held Texas A&M to under 300 yards of total offense. So most of the issues in the red zone, how would you assess not completing drives and putting the ball in the end zone?
Well, I mean, we did a film session, Mark, and we've done it. I did the first half film session. I did the second half film session that was uploaded. And if you all want an in-depth breakdown, almost play-by-play, I mean, it was an hour each. I did 75 plays of the first half. I did 50 plays of the second half. So almost every important play, of course, and then also some little intricacies. We did positives and negatives. And one thing I will say, when you can revise something, you go back and you look at things, it's always an opportunity. You have hindsight, you know the outcome of the play. And the thing about film study is being able to find the good and the bad in every single play, just like you look at every game. Okay, there's positives and negatives that we can take from every single game, every single outcome that happens. Even in your blowout wins like a Notre Dame, it's like, yeah, we look good, we embarrassed them, but we got lucky. I mean, they threw 4 interceptions. One of them is a pick six. They're on the road, and it was just they were way down in the tunnel, and we just kept piling on top of them. You look the week before that against Virginia Tech, we win a 10-point game where we threw 3 interceptions, but we kept them from getting in the end zone too often. So I look at even now, Miami did give up 2 touchdowns, which is why we lost 17 to 9. But one of them was off of a muff punt, a mistake by one of your leaders, and a mistake that was by one of your better players on the defensive side of the ball. And then you also look at the other touchdown. We had the bad tackling that has been a part of the Miami culture for, say, the last 3 or 4 years, since 2018. I would say Miami has had some real issues with tackling. And you saw that resurface. You saw us get in open space and not be able to bring people down. We're diving at ankles and trying to clip people and punching at the football instead of going in and wrapping up and trusting ourselves and trusting our technique. And you don't just take away something that's been around for 3, 4, or 5 years. You don't get rid of that in 8 months. Now, for the most part, I think Miami played a great game on defense as far as keeping things in front of them, as far as rallying into the football and some pretty good open field tackling. But when the pressure got really heavy and they were mounting a nice drive, there were times where the old Miami, as far as the ways that we have done things in a negative light, resurfaced. That's a little bit of a soliloquy defensively. Offensively, play calling is not easy. I don't think play calling is easy. I don't think execution is easy. You go from the year before under the previous offensive coordinator, Rhett Lashley, who's the head coach at SMU. They're doing pretty well, actually. It was more of a one read kind of offense. It was like, Tyler, you get the ball and you either have a check down or you lob it up. That's what it felt like as a Miami fan. There were times where you were either throwing that quick out or a slant, or you were throwing a deep ball to Rambo or Harley. And you throw those 50-50 balls to someone like Rambo, who's a 6'2", 190 guy. He went after that football at his highest point. So I believe it really helped and hurt TVD in that instance where he was so used to just getting the ball out quick, getting the ball out quick. And there were times where he doesn't trust his offensive line because last year he would get sacked a lot. He would get beat up. Now he has an offensive line that can give him some time, but his mental clock, in my personal opinion, just mine, is already so fast. And so there's times where you got a nice pocket. They made that beautiful, upside down. You look to it. I mean, he had already let the ball go instead of stepping in, trusting your pocket, letting routes develop across, letting deep routes come open. And he just had already checked it down to a running back or a wide receiver for a check down pass. So can you complain about a lot of things? Absolutely. Can you find the wide receiver drops? And there's something I would like to talk about a little bit more. Can you go into tight end blocking sometimes? Can you go into open field tackling? Absolutely. Those are a bunch of things that you can say negative. The positive things that I saw was offensive line played pretty well. Not great, not elite, but they played pretty well. They played winning football, in my opinion. The running backs, they also played pretty good ball, in my opinion. Mark, you there?
Yeah.
Okay. It had
Did I
stuck
freeze?
you. Your eyes are closed, like it was freezing with your eyes closed for a second.
I'm
I
here.
don't know if you took a long blink.
I'm right here with you.
um, and we didn't make plays when plays were necessary. Now, one thing our young men can't control is the play call. And we'll get into a segment on Coach Josh Gaddis here. But that's just my quick synopsis of what happened last week. And it was one of the more boring games, I will say. A bunch of people who weren't Miami fans and people who came to talk to me about it here locally or hit me up was always like, I was expecting to see a spectacle, and it was just like kind of two really bad offenses on the football field, kind of a snooze fest. So, hey, for me, my Canes are on TV. I'm never going to say that it's boring, but I get where people were coming from. You put this on national TV, you give it a national stage. We're the last, game on, and I don't think that we gave a good product as a team, as in Miami, and I don't think that we gave a good product as a game to watch between the two teams.
Well, you covered a lot of ground there. Let's go to well, you brought up to go in more in depth on the dropped passes. So as soon as you said and covered the missed tackles on defense and said, this is old Miami, this is something we need to shake out of our culture. It's been an issue for 4 or 5 years. As soon as you said that, I thought, well, we could say the same thing about drop passes.
Absolutely, and the issue is, I think it's a big confidence thing, Mark. It's the confidence from quarterback to wide receiver, the confidence of wide receiver within themselves. I mean, we have a very, very talented group, not elite. I mean, they're no Ohio State. They're not even like Alabama. They're not even some of these great programs, but they're talented. Some of these same guys were on the field with TBD last year. And he's throwing them wide open for bombs and posts and screens and all kinds of stuff. But in this new scheme, it doesn't seem wide receiver friendly. And it doesn't seem like TBD is attaching to this offense as well and as smooth as he did with the Rhett Lashley offense. Um, yeah, it can go both ways, Mark. You can look at the fact that we had some routes where they come wide open, Michael Redding over the middle, and that's TVD not putting it in the right spot, ball placement wise. But then you could turn around and you look at the game loser, if just because it was the last offensive play, and you get man coverage, one-on-one linebacker on the slot. Excuse me, their big outside corner, number 17, who had one heck of a game. He comes inside on Brashard Smith, and we catch him in man, perfect timing, whips his head around, the ball goes straight through his hands. All right, so there were plenty of examples you could even go to early on in the third quarter. It's third and 11. We get the wide receiver goes a yard past the six, and TBD threw it right at the sticks. So then Keyshawn Smith whips his head around to catch the ball, and it's already out of bounds because the timing is completely off. So there were examples of both where it just was, and it did not look good. I try to be very respectful and professional, but there were times where when I was watching the film review, I actually genuinely questioned, do we go through 7-on-7? Do we go through these drills? I questioned, do we go through 2-minute offense? Do we go through 4-minute offense? Because with a minute left, we're walking to the line of scrimmage and we're not even set on at wide receiver. I mean, Herb Street is talking about it like, let's go, get going. They don't, Miami is confused. They look like they don't know what's going on. They don't look like what they're doing. So all these things fall to the feet of our head coach first. And there's plenty of complaining and whining that you could do and pointing in all these different directions. And we will continue to get breaking down some other groups who, in my opinion, didn't do enough or could have done more to really help us. But again, Mark, and all encompassing, you had a chance to win this multiple times. You had two chances on the road within 8 minutes to get two scores. And you came away with nothing both times. And again, it's disappointing to us. We're not the ones out there running. We're not the ones out there lifting and trying and battling these other teams. I can only imagine how disappointing it was to the staff and to our young men. But at the end of the day, we got to get it right. We got to get it fixed.
A few things come to mind when it comes to red zone offense, and especially red zone, being the 25-yard line, but more like the, inside the 5 or the 10-yard line. That's what we were looking at the other night. And one of those drives, at least, they went 3 runs and out. And people bring up the concern or the criticism that they're being too conservative. And conservative to me usually means you're not conservative if you throw, you are conservative if you run. That's usually what's going through people's minds. And that's their cutoff to conservative play calling, and not conservative is simply if you're throwing the ball, you're not conservative. If you're running the ball too much, you're conservative. And I also think of it like this, that what are the chances with this quarterback that you're going to throw an interception? The possibility is always there.
Right.
But it's a small chance that you're going to turn the ball over, as opposed to going to something that, after all these other, again, conservative plays are not working, that it just seems like I don't know, like they were resigned to kick a field goal. They were okay with going for 3 a few times.
I would agree. I would agree that you can get that viewpoint. And I think that narrative also follows Coach Cristobal for some reason. Everybody thinks that Coach Cristobal, he makes his offensive coordinators. He's a former offensive lineman. He's a run the ball guy. And there are examples of that, especially early on in his time at Oregon, all the way up until last year. You can argue that same with Anthony Brown and that abysmal offense and how hard it was to watch them. And it felt like that, in my personal opinion. It felt similar to what I had to witness as a Miami fan, but also a Coach Cristobal fan, and watching some Oregon games. I'm just like, God, this is wow. I mean, you beat 2-8 Cal. It took you a goal line stand to beat a two-win team because you just kept you didn't score points. Now, I don't think that coaches go and sit down and they go, you know what we're gonna do this week? We're not gonna score. You know what we're gonna do this week? We're gonna give people the highest rated game because it's a tit for tat. But then there's also viewpoints of maybe we're going to change our quarterbacks, what his checkdowns. What is he looking at? What is he going to? Because when you think Miami, you think fast and speed and hit you in the mouth and over top and Randall Thrill Hill with a bomb against Texas and doing the guns in the Cotton Bowl. You got Michael Irvin beating Deion Sanders on a go route for a big touchdown in the Orange Bowl. Like this is what you think of with Miami, but unfortunately, as I'm watching this, I just realized that's not the kind of team that Coach Cristobal is going to field. It's just not, and I don't know if it's going to be depending on who his offensive coordinator is. But if we just continue to take who he has been in the past and what we've witnessed this 3 weeks, Miami is going to be one of those teams that's just a Wisconsin South, I guess, 2005 Miami or 2005 LSU, where it'll be just run the ball, make a couple passes, and play really good defense. And that may not be what a bunch of people want to hear. That's just why they wanted Lane Kiffin. They want Lane because Lane's going to come and throw the ball all over the place and up tempo and score all these points. And no one invests in the program, and we're not building anything, but we're winning games now. That's all that matters. Yay! And that's what people wanted. And I knew exactly what we were signing up for. This was the guy I wanted because he's a program builder. And unfortunately, it's a slow cooker. It's not something that it's quick, fast, and a McDonald's cheeseburger. This is a gourmet meal, and it takes a little bit. And bit by bit, I think we're going to experience that.
How much could it be an offensive coordinator and Josh Gaddis having his system, just the way he wants to run the offense and way he wants to use personnel and the packages that he wants to go with, regardless. If you take your average offensive or defensive coordinator and just said, we're not giving you specific players, we just want to hear what your concepts and philosophies are, regardless of your personnel, what you believe in, what you want to do on that side of the ball. They're all going to have, better than I do, they're all going to have principles and concepts that they believe in, core values that they believe in, that equals successful offensive football or defensive football. But then you bring in the players, and maybe what you like to do or believe works best then doesn't fit the personnel you were given.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you could say that for every position. We'll focus on the offense, but most people think of quarterback first and foremost. And if the quarterback doesn't fit the offense, or the offense and the game plan and approach wasn't tweaked in a way to help the quarterback do what he does well, then you're not going to be at your best. And I would hope that they looked at last year's TVD. Well, I know that they looked at last year's every throw he made, every play of the season, period, let alone every throw that he made, to think
I
to
don't
make
know, Mark.
about what does he do well and what does he struggle in.
I don't know if they did. This staff was very adamant at the fact that they did not watch last year.
Okay.
They were very open, and I don't know if there's validity to it, but here's where I back that up. Mark, there are plenty of times where we're in this game, and guys who are possession route guys, we were calling plays that didn't fit what they do well. So now I'm wondering, okay, as the wide receivers coach, do you even know your personnel? I'll take you to a time where it's third quarter. We're on the left hash. We're in plus territory on the 32-yard line, and we motion Romello Brinson around in the orbit route. Orbit is when you go behind the quarterback. H-jet is when you go in front. So you do an orbit motion behind the quarterback, and we threw a screen to Romello Brinson, who's all of 6 foot, 6'1". He's a possession fade route guy. We turn around, And then on the next play, just to get to that side, do 3 by 1, and then did the same, not really a motion, but did wide receiver screen to Jacoby George, and he breaks the ball, up the sideline for a nice. So are you just throwing plays out there to get none yardage and move the ball the way you really want, or do you know your do you know your young men? Do you know what they do well? How to put them in situations? There's times we're throwing the same tunnel screen that went up the sideline for Bashard. We turn around and threw that to Will Mallory and sent receivers to go block. It all in theory. I get it. Everyone sounds like they know football once they know the outcome of something and they can critique. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is the play call itself isn't bad. Wide receiver screens work all the time. But do we know our players, and do we know where we have them? Do we know that we actually have our X in the slot and we call the motion to someone who should be at X because it's a fade? Do we know we have our Y wide receiver where X is and have him blocking instead of coming inside for the tunnel screen? All these kinds of things you learn when you recruit that young man, you bring that young man in, and then you use them the way that you brought them in from the things that you witnessed in their highlight tape for recruiting. Well, in 8 months, I just don't know if Coach Josh Gaddis, who is the offensive coordinator and the wide receiver coach, has built a good enough rapport and understanding of what our young men do well just in these 3 weeks, because we have a receiving core, in my opinion, that should be in more of a shotgun pistol majority of the time. You can run out of that too if you want to, and attack teams intermediate to deep. But it feels like he's coaching like he's still at Michigan because this is what he's used to, where he's kind of got his understanding from. That's not really pace and space as he claimed that he was bringing from Alabama to Michigan. This seems more of what he would have learned at Michigan under Harbaugh, where they didn't really have great wide receiver talent. And they had a so-so quarterback, but an elite O-line and a pretty good running game, and they went with that. And that seems to be the game plan that we're getting right now. And it's just 3 weeks in. And it was an unfortunate outcome, but we did see that we can move the ball, but we did not see that the ball can cross it into the end zone. So that to me leaves a lot to be desired.
I would take Michigan's wide receiver core over Miami's.
Okay.
The one thing they did well consistently right out of the gate was they weren't ripping off huge chunks of yardage, but they were consistently getting yardage in the ground game, play after play after play after play. Jalen Knighton looked really good out of the gate, and it wasn't him getting all the yardage, and it wasn't, but he was making some really good cuts, some good, um, following his blocking, but most of it was offensive line driven. That they were getting a push.
Absolutely. And we're still on offense. And we got another 30 minutes here. We'll get the defense. We'll talk about the defense because that is where you'll see me glow up and I get all excited and bring the energy that you all know as the H1H. But unfortunately, we're talking about the side of the ball that lost us the game this past Saturday. So I'm not too happy speaking. I'm being very, very professional in some of the terms in which I'm using. But offensive line wise, man, I mean, yeah, there was some times where some people came open. I mean, I don't expect Miami year one, even under a good coach who's working to become an elite coach. He's a good coach. I think Coach Cristobal is anywhere in that B minus to B range as far as a coach. I think he's an A plus recruiter, but as a head coach, I think he's a top of tier 3, bottom of tier 2, B kind of coach. There's other people who are better right now. Would you agree with that assessment, Mark?
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Okay, perfect.
Sure.
When I look at development, it makes me excited. Miami, and it's opposite of what I thought would happen. Remember, I sat here a week ago, right now this time, and I said, "Do not go in there and try to out Texas A&M, Texas A&M. You're not going to beat them that way." Even though I was right about the outcome, and I'm saying, give the confidence to your quarterback, give the confidence to your wide receivers, spread it out and air it out. Well, anytime we tried that, it didn't click. It did not click. But one thing we could depend on from the beginning of the game to the end of the game was the run game. And it's because of the great coaching, the film, the technique. Mark, they just knew where Texas A&M would go. Mark, we had 5 quarterback hurries, 5 quarterback hits, 0 sacks, and get this, Mark. How many TFLs do you think Miami had? Lost, like we lost them. So A&M had against
Oh,
Miami.
A&M. I know it wasn't many. I'm going to go with one.
Right on the head. They had 1 tackle for loss, Mark, against a front littered with 4 and 5 star recruits. They have had one of the best coaches recruiting wise on defensive line in the last 3-4 cycles. Amazing. You got DJ Scaife, guy who I've been critical of. Justice Uluwasi, a transfer from University of UNLV. Ja'Kai Clark, a 3-star. Now you had Rivers, who was a 4-star tackle, and then Zion Nelson, a 2-star, was in and out. You had 4-star John Campbell. And they looked like the SEC front compared to what we were playing. They played well. Yeah, of course, they had some hurries. They let some people go free, which resulted in some incompletions because TVD had to get rid of the ball fast. But if you take all of it together, I mean, 175 yards rushing in the heart of SEC country, I'll take it. I'll take it twice on Sundays. I think John Campbell, right now, according to Pro Football Focus, something that I get it, it's Pro Football Focus, I understand. But they gave him the highest pass protecting grade in all of college football in the last 3 weeks. He has a 90 overall grade in pass pro. So
You
see.
bring up Zion Nelson. Do you think that he only played part-time because this was his first week back, or is he fighting for a job?
I would lean into it being more of his first week. I mean, he looked winded, his technique was off, but I think left tackle is John Campbell's position. Week in and week out, he has proven that he has it at left tackle. He did it against the lesser competition of Bethune-Cookman and Southern Miss, and he also played very, very well against Texas A&M. So I'm not saying he's some first rounder, but I'm just saying he played very, very well. I think left tackle is his position, and he's not giving it up. They tried to put Zion out there, and it just kind of threw it all off. And then once DJ Scaife, who I don't know if there's any word on whether he's out for a bit or if it was just a little bit, when he went down, Zion went out at right tackle in the offensive line. It was still doing all right, but it didn't. It took kind of a step down because Zion is a pure pass protector, and putting him on the right side, it was affecting our run blocking because DJ Scaife and Justice Uluwasi, they're double teaming, they're climbing. It was like smooth, like butter. They did a great job. Coach Alex Mirabal, Coach Bain, Coach Pata, and Coach Cristobal, they do an amazing job coaching on that offensive line, and they might get the only A grade I would give out from all positions this previous week.
We got the wholesome one here breaking down Miami, of course, the big Texas A&M game, the one we've all been waiting for months and months and months and months and months and months, is now in the rearview mirror. That always strikes me as kind of strange, and I don't know if I'm going to convey this the right way, that there are certain college football games every year, regardless of the team that you follow, that you're like, okay, man, can't wait for that one, can't wait for that one. And then when they get here, then they're gone. And especially, some of these games with the way the contracts come out, you hear, oh, Miami and Texas A&M are playing in 2022, and it's only like 2017, and you're like, oh, okay, wow, Texas A&M in 5 years, and then the game, time passes on, it's gone, and you got to keep moving on and improve. Falconer X, we see you. Let me pick off some of these super chats. We appreciate you being here, Falconer X. Thank you so much. Always for your contributions there. Super sticker out of Falconer X. Maybe the wholesome one knows what you mean here. He's got A&M had a D not on tape. Why didn't Miami adjust?
had a D. Is he talking about the fact that my A&M's defense wasn't put on tape?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Um, I think they were on tape. What they but it's just the fact that they came out in more of a passing because they expected us to pass on them. But then once that because that was the perfect job by Coach DJ Durkin. I mean, it was an amazing job by him. The fact that he's like, okay, well, they can't keep completely passes. If I put three down and drop eight, and they still can't complete passes, yeah, you may run on me, but you're not going to run on me all the way through. Eventually, you're going to get in the red zone, and you're not going to be able to run because now I'm going to load that box on you. But he continued to drop seven, drop eight, drop seven, drop eight. And Mark, there were just times where we would get in third and eight, and you watch the film from the tight in the rear view, and there was no one open. We only got three people running routes against eight people in zone coverage, and they were passing off so smooth. I will keep saying this, Mark, before we move on to defense and then get into Middle Tennessee State. I'll say this: there were times where I really felt like I wish Coach would allow TBD to be the starter that he is, meaning that lean into a guy that's played out here with these guys for eight games last year. What I mean by that, if we come out, Mark, and I see somebody in the three with three down front with a light box, what that means is it's not a loaded seven-man box. Okay, we only have four or five people in the box. He should be able to have a run check. You want him to be a pro guy? That's what happens at that level. You're the one on the field. Of course, the coaches are calling the play, but if you line up and see them in something, your headset stops after 15 seconds. So it's on you. Okay. You look at this out. Oh man, run, dive. We're running the ball at will. I don't. It's plenty of times, Mark. It was third and 15. We run the ball for 12 yards. If we would have had some opportunities, especially in the red zone, instead of trying to air it out or getting close to it in plus territory, I think we definitely should have a chance where TVD is able to get a check with me and he look at his back and go dive or something. Just be able to get some yardage on it because having him sit back and try to find someone open when this team dropped eight back, and teams are going to do that moving forward to us because what you do on tape, what you show on tape, other people are going to try to exploit. And what we've seen is that you can't do that.
Falcon Rex play big games at the Rock. All right. Appreciate you and also Falcon Rex. I love Hard Rock. Miami needs the home stadium. All right. Roland is certainly ready for us to talk about Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, I see. I guess we should just skip defense then, huh, Mark?
Yeah.
You don't even want to watch the show no more.
I don't know that. Yeah.
Good
I
God,
want to
man.
see you light up and I want to see you get jacked up and enthusiastic.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I feel like I'm down right now.
we got some
Appreciate the
time.
comment, Roland, but
Go
sit
through some
back and watch the
defense.
show.
Yeah.
Defense. Oh man. It's like I want to be so because there were times where I'm like, this is what I've been waiting on. But we also have to be honest. They played an offense that's kind of, it felt like they were playing their same offense, the same thing we watched
Yep.
before. I I had an argument with not an argument, but Dante Cologne, who comments all the time. We're really good friends, and we were talking right after the game. I said, "Man, it felt like Coach Fisher coached both offenses today." Because I mean, it was just like receivers don't matter. We only go to them on third and long. We're just gonna run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Well, it worked perfect for Coach Kevin Steele. He was able to have our men prepared. Our young men were prepared, Mark. And Corey Flagg Jr., someone who I've been very critical of in the last couple of years, he definitely showed up. Open field tackling was pretty good. He was also being cerebral and putting people in certain places and flipping the defense sometimes. There's times where you see him and the linebackers flip because he's like, oh, no, 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 he's trying to get me on him. You go over here, Wade Mestido. There's times where you see him and Cam Kitchens communicating because they would move the running back over to try to get him one on one with Corey Flagg, which that's not his best, zone coverage, man coverage is not his thing. He's a run guy. So there were times when we would bring a safety in the box to be able to take on the running back. But that's all coaching, checking, and confidence. And I feel like the only side of the ball that has that is the defense, excluding offensive line. So I think Corey Flagg had a very, very good game at Mike linebacker. DJ Ivy, a young man who has been absolute trash at Miami, showed up and made some really good plays in man coverage, one on one, and happy to see it for him. I mean, there are plenty of times that I've said these things about our players that when I'm critical or I talk about some mishaps, it's not to beat my chest about being right about someone not playing well. I would love for them to prove me wrong. I would love to come on here and say, "Great job! You won a Thorpe Award. You proved me wrong. Great job! You're in the first round corner. Amazing." I want to see our young men develop. The issue was over the previous staff is that it mattered how much behind kissing you did, not how good of a player you are. On this new staff, can you play? And DJ Ivy has shown some really good as far as last week. We're not gonna crown him too bad, but he played really, really good last week. Also, another player that has some good snaps, in my opinion, Jafari Harvey, number 12, number 56, Leonard Taylor. I mean, Leonard Taylor showed some flashes of that five-star prospect that Miami had, third overall that we picked up in 2020. And I think Cam Kitchens had some pretty good ones, number 24, but uh, all in all, there were some mishaps, some bad ones, in my opinion. James Williams played an okay game, but still got a lot of open field tackling to fix with him. To Corey Couch, we need to find someone else, another nickel. He played really, really, really bad. Wayman Steve, Mark, there's so many times where he has the running back in his sights, and you see instead of him trusting and staying on his feet and running through or taking a better angle as far as giving ground, I would take a 2 yard gain with a secure tackle than you diving for a TFL
Yeah.
instead of trusting your keys, man. And there were plenty of times 17 just took the wrong angle or the wrong step as opposed to just allowing it to be. I would take 2nd and 7 instead of a 35-yard gain because we didn't trust our keys. And the issue with this defense, on a negative note still, is it's a gap sound defense, meaning you have to man your gap. You have to be where you are because it's about funneling it all in and bringing them down to the ground. Well, if we funnel it all in, but one person steps out his gap or spins out the wrong gap, or one person takes a chance, it results in big plays for against us because we're trusting all other 11, 10 men to do their job. And if you have one person out of the 11 not do their job, it really shows. And unfortunately, there were times in key moments where we had that issue with Wayman Steve, we had that issue with um, James Williams, we had that issue with the Corey Couch, and where or even 99 Elijah Roberts, where people weren't doing their job or they weren't in their gap, and it resulted in some big plays. But overall, man, they get an A grade from me. They played very, very well as a group. B, B. I give them a B grade. They gave up 2 touchdowns. Okay, because as a defensive mind, yeah, we had that one that fell at the muff punt. But at the end of the day, it's our job to make sure you don't score touchdowns. So we had a chance. We got them a 3rd and goal, and we could have stopped them and made them kick a field goal. But unfortunately, they got across because Big Six decided to stand up instead of stay low and get underneath. Okay, it's just that point, and this is why I say holding things to a championship standard and holding ourselves to a high standard. I don't expect us to shut everybody out. Okay. I predicted 10-2, which means I predicted us to lose games. But I saw some championship football on the defensive side of the ball, and I saw some things that we need to work on. But all in all, I think they played a really good game on the defensive side of the ball. It's crazy, Mark, to see the growth and the development in 8 months from some of the same people who I felt like couldn't tackle, some of the same people I felt like weren't even Miami caliber players, and they're out there playing at a very, very high level. And this shows coaching and the culture and the confidence that these great coaches can put into young men. It changes the kind of players that they are.
We're here at the Voice of College Football every Thursday night with the Wholesome One, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Check out his channel. Get the film breakdown at the Wholesome One's channel, Wholesome One Holloway, right here on YouTube. Please like the video. You know, when we see that we've got whatever it is, between 2,000 and 4,000 people watch these videos, I don't know why everybody's not clicking the like button. So please click the like button. It's an easy thing to do. It takes literally 1 second to do. Hit the like button, subscribe here to the Voice of College Football, subscribe to the Wholesome Ones channel. Please do that for us. And there's other ways you can support. The Super Chat's on. You also have, well, you can join us on Discord, talk Canes all the time on our Patreon, Mark Rogers TV. Go to patreon.com, search Mark Rogers TV, join us on our Discord right there. All right. Well, Middle Tennessee. You had any chance to study up on them at all? I got to tell
Absolutely.
I don't know anything about them.
Absolutely. So they are 2-1 right now. They just had a win over Tennessee State, the HBCU. They had a loss the first game of the season to JMU, a team I know very, very personally. James Madison that just made that step up to the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
And they look very, very good. Very, very good. A great program. Great program. I'm happy for them that they're now a Group of 5 program. And they kind of whooped up on Middle Tennessee State. Well, in my time of trying to find all these different games, they were the only game that I could get a full glimpse of was against JMU. They also played Colorado State, but it's only highlights of that one, and they won that. One thing I will say about Middle Tennessee State, they're very unique. They're very on the defensive side of the ball against our offense, some of the things that they could do good and bad. We could have issues with the way that they pass rush, meaning they're very similar to Southern Miss as far as bringing blitzes from all over the football field. They send cat blitzes, nickel blitzes. They twist their defensive line. They drop defensive ends into coverage while they send a nickel out right where that defensive end was. They really replace well in the blitz game. What that means is where someone else just left that zone area where they would just were, someone else will step right in. The issue is trying to identify which one is the replacer and which one is the blitzer. They show a lot of blitzing on third down, so they'll come up with their double middle linebacker blitz. And so as a center, you must have good communication. Ja'Kai Clark and whomever the running back is, we must have great communication because they love to blitz. I would say keep it simple as far as Rambo or lingo, meaning we want to slide to the right or slide to the left, as opposed to going big on big and then small on small, because when they start all those twisting and I'm stuck on one guy, that's how they get you. They get you to come in this way, and then you slam down on your guy. Meanwhile, your B gap is wide open for a linebacker or a nickel to slam into. And what they would do is send someone off the edge to attract that running back. And now the running back steps out to pick up the edge rush out there, and you step down, and now whomever right up that gut is just them and the quarterback, and they have to make the tackle. So I saw that a lot against James Madison. I saw that in a couple of their highlights against Tennessee State and against Colorado State. So they're very, very good in that end. They run a zone scheme, Mark. They very rarely are a press man kind of team. They're very zony. So that means that quarterbacks, for our job, you lick your chops, okay? Because if your guys are showing up that week, you can attack them because their eyes are on you, meaning you can move the defense with your eyes because the defense is looking at you if they're in zone coverage. Something we haven't really seen TBD do under this new regime, but this week is a great opportunity to do it. It is also a great opportunity to build that chemistry and get the timing and build a good rapport with the wide receivers against Middle Tennessee State. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to destroy them. and that they suck and we should just go on and win by 70. This is a time to work on those things. Work on the little things before we get into conference play because there are some teams like Carolina and like Tallahassee and some other teams that are coming down the line here that can score. We need to figure out how to be able to score because what we've shown is that we can only move the ball running the ball. Well, as a defense, I love that because now I could just commit 7 to 8 people to stopping that run if you can't pass the football. And being able to say that you can't pass the football at Miami is criminal. Being able to say you don't have speed at Miami is criminal. So we must figure out a way. And that's something that you can't just talk about. It's not something that you just come up and say, no, I do have a relationship with them. I do have timing with them. I do have chemistry with them. Obviously, you do not because you have not shown it in games. It's something that you have to practice. It's something that you have to show once the team gets on the football field. Middle Tennessee, offensively, they are a spread team, but they are not a spread to pass team. What that means is they keep a very light box, meaning one back in the backfield. At most, sometimes they bring in an H back, which means they a tight end, a smaller tight end in that 6'3" range. He plays right behind the guards. That's called an H back. What they do is they protect most of the time and they send the running backs out. So they keep 5 linemen in and someone back there to protect at all times. So they have a 6-man protection and they love to pass the football and then also come off of that and get you to back up. Now they run. They're up tempo. They will test your cornerbacks and they're kind of diverse in that instant. What I mean by that in the run game, they have a whole bunch of motion going on, and this running back could hand it off to that wide receiver, or this receiver could catch it, and then he'll stop and throw it. Okay, there's a bunch of things that they do. It's going to be really tough on our defense as far as good eye discipline. I would stay out of man. I would go more zone so that you can look as opposed to staring at one person. You can look at everything kind of in front of you. Sit more of a cover 2 and a cover 4 so that, yeah, we may give up yardage, but we're off the ball. We can look and see what's happening in front of us and then rally to the football and bring the guy down, as opposed to in man, and then now I lose my guy, and he's off to the races for a touchdown for Middle Tennessee State. So that's a little bit of a soliloquy that I've gotten down. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m., I will be uploading a film review where I break down all of that stuff and show you what's happening and what to expect from them against Miami.
Dave is especially enjoying your breakdown, Wholesome One.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. I know I can get a little long-winded and I can kind of talk fast and it all meshes together, but thank you so much for your kind words.
And also makes this comment, Dave, makes sense because he actually knows his crap instead of telling us he does. And
Thank you, man.
also says
Thank you.
here,
God bless.
Wholesome One, do you ever break down other schools?
Well, I have to for my job, but as far as for YouTube, I only break down things for Miami. I have thought about going into other things, but you never know. I don't know. It's tough when you have one fan base that you kind of. I'm a Miami YouTuber. I'm not a all encompassing, but I've thought about it only to show Miami fans how things are done across the country in other ways, how we can come out of these formations that you would think is old school pro style and still run passing concepts out of it. Also, you could have a passing concept where we have 4 wide receivers, but they have a great run game out of it. So it's kind of the things that I would like to do, and I've been thinking about it. And maybe I'll pull that trigger one day, but as of right now, I just break down who Miami plays and what Miami did good and bad throughout the week.
The Canes are a 25.5-point favorite. The over-under out of Vegas is 53.5. So basically, that means Vegas is projecting this one at 39-14. So what that comes out to. So that's what you got there. You got a quarterback in Middle Tennessee. His name's Chase Cunningham, 72% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Their top running backs going at 5 yards per clip, 44 carries for 218, 5 touchdowns. That's Frank Peasant. And they definitely have two wideouts that do more than the rest of the team. So they got two main targets in Isaiah Gathings. He's got 20 catches, about 8 yards per catch. And then they got Yusuf Ali, 16 catches, about 8 yards per catch. So not a whole lot of production yards per catch, at least out of those two wide receivers. But those are the two leading wide receivers right there. And they've made their 2 field goals so far. They got a couple guys with 2.5 sacks that appear to be their best pass rushers.
They got a young man, Ferguson, number 9, who's really good. He's a big dude too. He's like 6'4"ish.
Jordan Ferguson.
Yeah, he can play.
3 sacks.
He can play.
Okay.
I wonder who they would try to match him up on, especially in pass rush. Maybe Justice Uluwasi, that right guard, may have his kind of work cut out for him. But at the end of the day, I mean, when it comes to playing these smaller teams, what you try to get away from when evaluation is not necessarily matchups and one-on-ones. You want to see where they could attack you and scheme, because they don't have the players, so they have to create the way that they move the football. And their quarterback is a mobile guy, so he could give us some issues in that instance. Also, he's not someone to just sit in the pocket and pick you apart. He's someone that is mobile, but he stays behind a line of scrimmage. So he'll run out and he'll just like run and run and run and run and run and run, and then nobody's there, he'll throw it out. But that kind of young man. So it could be some issues for Miami. Of course, I have us winning, but coming off of a tough loss, I'm hoping that a slow start doesn't show its face, because I don't want us to be looking at a 14-0 end of the first quarter thing, or 7-0 end of the first quarter thing like we did against Southern Miss, where it just looked like we didn't want to play.
What would be your guess on how many Middle Tennessee players are currently in the NFL?
6.
9. It's not too bad.
Not too far off. Their coach has been there for a long time. Their coach he's a quarterback from Tallahassee back in 1980.
Rick Stockstill.
When Miami beat them. Yeah, Miami beat them 10-9. Kind of took Miami onto a nice trajectory from there. But he's been at Middle Tennessee State for a very, 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 very long time, and he's built a nice program there. But they don't have the great players. They don't have these big 4-star recruits, but they really do build young men from within. So you see a bunch of RSs next to those names, meaning that they redshirt them, they bring it on. It's an interesting way of moving the football. It's an interesting way of stopping you and attacking you defensively. But Coach Cristobal has some experience playing them when he was at FIU. And now he's going on to Oregon and Bama, and then came back to Miami. And that guy is still at Middle Tennessee State. So the culture is ingrained there, and they've been around for a while.
9 current NFL players, only 2 were drafted. So the rest of them had to go the free agent route and make a team. So that's impressive. Very good. Appreciate everybody being here. Voice of College Football. Come on back next Thursday. Let's make this a habit. Next Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Bring some folks with you.
Absolutely. Tell a friend to bring a friend. All right, Mark, thank you all so very much for the opportunity. Always coming here to talk about our Canes. And as always, okay.